Hi, and welcome to this edition of Eye on Business Video. I'm your host, Steve Onderhard. Joining me this time, the Dean of Enterprise Streaming, one Michael Newman. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Very good. Now, you're CEO of MediaPlatform now, but you've been involved in the business for 15 plus years in a variety of roles, and there's nobody better that I can think of to really give us a tutorial on what enterprise video platforms are right now. So when people are thinking about what enterprise video platforms do and ask you what you do for a living, what do you tell them?
Sure. Happy to answer that, Steve. If you think about it, every day, hundreds of millions of people are creating live video content. Typically, they're using that for one-to-one communications. It could be small group meetings. It could be possibly small one-to-many presentations. But the vast majority of that content is being used very temporarily, and it disappears as soon as people hang up. Contrastingly, the enterprise video platform space focuses, at least primarily, on a much more discrete subset of users. Predominantly, these users are going to be high-end producers within large enterprises, and they're being charged with creating very engaging, high production value live webcasts for their companies. And so these are the type of events where the way in which it's presented will project a lot about the company, its attention to detail, its innovativeness. It will really embrace its employees, try to engage them, and send a message about the quality of its products or services. As you might imagine, that content is very high value. And so in addition to being able to create it, organizations will also want to be able to protect it. They'll want to be able to distribute it successfully, track things like quality of service, and then measure KPIs at the end of that. So the enterprise video platform is really purpose-built for those types of users, those types of use cases. And unlike a situation where a roadmap might be aligned with hundreds of millions of communicators, this is really designed for a small subset of high-end presenters who are in the aggregate also communicating out to hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, so in the post-COVID era, we have lots of people who are familiar with video, but not everybody's familiar with the concept of doing video on a one-to-many basis really, really well. And that's what enterprise video platforms do, don't they? They help with the creation, the distribution, and the management of the content that's created every day by business organizations.
That's absolutely correct. And whereas you have a lot of solutions today steering towards ease of use, automation, using AI as a surrogate for decision making, and that's what's really enabling even the least technical communicators to use those types of products successfully. Our roadmap steer towards really being able to assert that creative control, being able to fine tune the way things are distributed, and making that content very unique to the identity of the organization that is reflected by the content and the presenters and the way everything's being presented. So it's a lot of fun. I certainly have enjoyed over the last 20 years working with the largest companies in the world as they're putting a lot of creativity and time into content that really reflects well on the organization, is embraced, as I said, by the employees, and tends to stick around for a long time.
It's really about putting your best video foot forward when you're making a webcast that's reaching out to a lot of people at the same time. Now, a lot of companies are out there providing enterprise streaming solutions. What makes MediaPlatform unique in the marketplace, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think there are really two aspects to that answer. The first of which is relative to the video meeting solutions that I was just talking about, and that is being purpose-built really from the ground up for that producer community. And as it relates to MediaPlatform specifically, I think there are a few key differentiators that, one of the advantages, if there are any, of getting older is I hope to think I'm getting a little bit wiser about the decisions we make with our products, but and our services. And one of those things is we invest pretty heavily in our professional services organization and our broadcast services organization. And so whereas we may be thought of as strictly a technology company, we recognize that the demand on these studio teams within large enterprises it oscillates a lot. And whether they're trying to hit a hybrid audience, whether they're trying to evaluate new technologies, whether they're trying to do a multi-location shoot, there's a lot of opportunity to work with them closely and provide a white glove service that really is designed to ensure their success, to make this partnership very, very successful, and not to make it strictly transactional. I'd say also, as an extension of that, working very closely with our partners, I'd say our roadmap is incredibly well aligned with their requirements. We certainly don't think we're smarter than the users of our products. We don't think we can design something better in a vacuum. We are
Mike, you are smarter than your users. Let me tell you, you've forgotten more about enterprise streaming than some of the people out there know.
I have forgotten a lot, that's for sure, Steve. But it's really enjoyable to collaborate and to hear unanimity about, or consensus about, certain innovations. It really makes our product management much easier. And so we're doing regular customer councils. We're spending time on site with customers. We're in their studios. And that's the best way of learning. So we have a commitment to that demographic. It's very, very focused. And unlike those product managers who are responsible for trying to make 100 million people happy, we like what we do. We think it's a little bit easier to stay focused, and we think we're doing a pretty good job at it.
Now, all of a sudden, streaming is becoming really popular among these big tech giants. You got Microsoft, Zoom, other tech giants that are trying to get into the streaming game, offering webcasting solutions that maybe build off traditional UC platforms. How can the chugging train of media platform compete in such an environment in amongst the battle of the titans?
It's a great question. It's something I'm thinking about all the time, but I think it's built upon the wrong premise, which is that those companies are trying to innovate in our direction, that they want to get into the EVP space. They want to have really high touch, high support burden relationships with their customers. And in addition to the hundreds and hundreds of millions of licenses that they're able to get on things like Teams and Zoom, they want our licenses. I would say that, as you look at their roadmaps, and I can't speak for them, specifically, but what I sense is that A, they're competing amongst each other, and those are pretty sizable competitors. And B, they're really steering towards, again, automation, ease of use, the things that are lowering the bar on enabling users to create content and to create communications. Again, contrastingly, I don't think that automation brings them any closer to our space. Undeniably, it is innovation. Undeniably, things like AI are innovative and will help a very large universe of communicators out there. At the same time, our users will largely feel that some of those innovations will handcuff them, will take away some of their creative control, will make decisions on their behalf. And so, whereas it may seem logical to say one video solution must compete against another, it's a little bit like saying, a sedan is going to compete against a rugged off-road vehicle. I don't think you're going to sell as many off-road vehicles, but they're purpose-built. And if you have a landscaping business, you don't want to be strapping your riding mower to your sedan.
Yeah, there's a big difference between creating video tools that everybody uses versus video tools that are used by those who are really, really focused on putting out the most high quality version of video that they possibly can. The people who might lose their jobs if the CEO doesn't look good on his webcast, for instance. So with that in mind, what is the ideal customer for MediaPlatform? I guess it's not the great unwashed video masses, is it?
Yeah, and I was just going to quickly add one thing to the sort of meeting space that maybe is assumed to be migrating towards the EVP space, is I think what you'll find reveals itself over the next 12 months is, rather than being competitive silos, they're actually very synergistic. And I think what will reveal itself is that these two solutions and these two budgets should not be viewed as competitive or as binary, and that just as we evidence with our partnerships with companies like Microsoft, we can provide that high touch that a lot of their customers want. We can offload a lot of the support burden that maybe they don't want to be burdened with. And so as we look at the Microsoft ECDN or integrating with Teams or using both of those solutions as sources and delivery mechanisms for large live webcasts, there's a lot of room for pushing the envelope by looking at things cooperatively or collaboratively. As far as our ideal user, they are the fortunate or unfortunate souls who are charged with creating the most compelling, engaging, thought-provoking content for these name brand, recognizable institutions, these logo recognizable companies. And so whether they're consumer or business to business, they are dealing with the C-level executives. They are dealing with very important messaging. They're dealing with incredible investments that are designed to empower employees for long periods of time. We want to enable that. We want to be jazzed by what we see as the content they're creating. And so, just recently we were working behind the scenes with a customer of ours who they created a set that resembled the Tonight Show. I mean, you start with that sends a message. And as you bring that into the technology, all you're thinking about is don't compromise that, enhance it, amplify it, manicure it. And we want to provide the products and the consulting and the guidance and the support to help our customers do that.
So what specific tools can MediaPlatform bring to the table that help enable that high-end, glossy, slick production type of experience?
So there are really two things that we've recently released that I think are notable. First of which was a complete ground up rebuild of our large live webcasting product. It was formerly called Webcaster. That product was not designed cloud native from the ground up. Broadcaster is highly extensible, highly scalable. It's amazing to see, just our support metrics now that almost none of our support is derived from, I guess I could call them room for enhancements or bugs. It just performs incredibly. And so without that sort of technical debt, we're able to focus on features and functionality. And so enabling people to really customize the audience experience, do things like sentiment voting to add engagement, do things like storyboard. So rather than being locked into a static template, now you can really manipulate the audience experience to highlight video, highlight graphics, highlight polling, and extract analytics and data that is really, really rich and meaningful.
Yeah, I guess your product managers are
released a product called Autocaster. And on its face, I can understand why it may be mistaken for something like Simulive, but in actuality, what it enables people to do is modularize the creation of a large live webcast so that they are able to do components of that or all of the webcast in advance. You can create the video content, you can create the polls, you can do all of these things and then schedule when it's actually broadcast. The benefit of which is not only that you're able to use the resources when they're available, including those C-level executives, you're also able to remove some of the moving parts like encoders that might be points of failure. So you kind of have to see it to really experience the benefits. But for anyone who is either resource constrained or wants to be able to do things on hours that will be broadcast off hours, it's had just a great reception.
Yeah, I think from what you've been telling me about Autocaster in the past, when you're doing Simulive, it's really just a repurposing of the video that you produced, as opposed to Autocaster, which really creates the entire interactive experience and allows you to deliver it on a time-shifted, recorded basis to other markets. So if you have a single webcast in the U.S., you can replay it in Europe the next day, in the Asia Pacific market the next day, without necessarily devoting a lot of video production resources or individual time to making that happen. Is that right?
I'm glad we're recording this, Steve, because that was much more articulate than how I would have said it. So yes, absolutely. I mean, it has enormous benefits. Simulive is just this flattened repurposing,
Right.
as you were saying. Autocaster, like all of our products, is designed to empower and really, elevate to the next level the way that you create and distribute content, replay it over time, and use your resources in the most effective manner possible. So that 2 a.m, you're trying to hit a geo that maybe your people aren't in. You can replay the video and maybe have one of those people monitoring the Q&A or monitoring support, but you don't have to occupy the studio. You don't have to have that C-level executive driving in at the wee hours in the morning, and everybody's happy and the thing goes off without a hitch.
Yeah, video production teams have enough to do on a day-to-day basis without having to babysit webcasts repurposed around the clock and around the globe. So this has got to be a godsend for really those short resourced bare bones video production teams that we usually find in the enterprise that need all the help they can get.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes to, us listening. It's kind of cheating from a product management perspective, but we're listening to what the challenges are, and we're collaborating with our customers to figure out innovative ways of resolving those challenges. And it's a little cliche to say do more with less, and it's very complicated to really resolve how to do that. But over the last year, we set out to tackle that challenge, and we think we've done it in an elegant way that's really powerful and really does enable companies to make the most of their resources, both their locations and the people they use, and not always have to have the highest paid, most competent people available for every single thing that's being done.
Now you talk about challenges. I don't think we've had any single bigger challenge in the COVID era we just got past. How did MediaPlatform adjust during those times and in that environment? Have your team come out as a changed team as a result of what we went through?
I would say that during that period, there were a lot of distractions, and some of those distractions could have been very lucrative. We chose to remain eminently focused on our core customer base. We didn't chase some of the opportunities and things like virtual trade shows that emerged, and rather use that 18 to 24 months to continue to enhance the product, to really invest in Broadcaster, which again was focused on the same user base. And I think what we've seen is our products are incredibly well designed to support these teams as they deal with the hybrid workforce. So the sophistication that we're able to provide in areas like delivery, when you have a mobile workforce that 3 days a week is in the office, 1 day a week is at home, 1 day a week is in the car. How do you orchestrate the way in which that content is delivered? How do you, oscillate the levels of engagement you want? How do you deal with the in-person audience as opposed to someone who's capturing their content online? These are problems we've been thinking about for the last 24 months. And I think in addition to being very well aligned with where the industry and the market are today, I also think we have a lot of goodwill from our existing customers, because while we could have been distracted, what we did was sit side by side with them and say, you've just gotten kicked out of your physical studio. How are you going to keep the wheels on the bus? And we helped them develop their remote studios. We helped be a surrogate when they needed remote encoding or helped with closed captioning or an extra set of eyes through a camera. And it was a really great relationship building opportunity. And it put us in a position where we can truly use the word partnership to describe the relationship that we have with our customers. And I see it as truly symbiotic. Like Autocaster wouldn't exist without the input that we've learned from our customers. Broadcaster has been dramatically enhanced by that input. And at the same time, we really genuinely care about their success, and we sit side by side with them. And again, rather than making short-term money chasing decisions, we kind of stayed the course, and I think it's paid off. And as I look at, our renewal rates, our customer satisfaction rates, the growth rates we're experiencing at the end of 2022 going into 2023, it reflects that I think we made the right long-term decisions.
So it sounds like it was time well spent. Now let's look at the year ahead. You've just come out of that kind of 18 months to 24 months of kind of hunkering down and making the product better and strengthening your relationship with your customers and partners. What's going to happen in 2023? Look into your crystal ball for me.
I happen to have read one of your trend reports, Steve, and
don't trust it.
I will say you are seeing the same things that I am seeing, which is, when a company is observing a space and trying to figure out their strategy, that they're just not going to make major decisions. And that was most of 2021 and a lot of 2022. And what we see now are these large enterprises committing to a strategy. And that bodes really, really well for us because we're positioned in a consultative capacity. We're trusted. We're recognized by the analyst community. Like we're a pretty good partner in that regard. And so now that companies are getting ready to act, we've been very, very busy, and it's been really exciting because it doesn't look like the community of users prior to COVID, where it was kind of like, let's experiment a little and let's see if we can sell this internally. Now it's really aggressive adoption. They understand the value. They understand the problems that are being solved. They understand what the workforce will look like going forward and how important online communications is. So it's really about helping them shape what success looks like as opposed to convincing them they need to do something.
Yeah, we're not selling them on the idea that end users are going to magically want video. End users do want video. It's a matter of how organizations are going to go out and support these video capabilities and what kind of platforms they're going to implement to make all that happen. Ain't that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, our company is not going to convince a 400,000 or 500,000 person company to do something if they're not ready to do it.
Oh, and now they're ready. You can do that.
Yeah, I've tried. I don't know what my win-loss ratio is, but now it's just fun. I love, seeing people push the envelope. I love the industry. I mean, as you alluded to, I've been in the industry a long time. There've been a couple opportunities to change out of the industry, and I just got back into it as quickly as I could. We're just coming out of a customer council where I got to hear some great stories about how, people are planning on doing things that are even sort of more ambitious than what they were doing in the past. And I love it, and I think the company ethos is very much the same. We all take pride in what our customers are doing.
Now, not to date you at all there, Mike, but I do remember a time when you told me about you and your sales team huddling around the fax machine at the end of every quarter in order to see those purchase orders roll in just under the deadline. So
that is right. We were counting our revenues on an abacus.
Well, I'm glad we've advanced from those Stone Age days, and great to see MediaPlatform thriving and succeeding as we head into 2023. Mike Newman, thanks so much for your time. Great to have you on the show today.
Absolutely, Steve. I always enjoy speaking with you and always enjoy following your guidance and your trend reports and your analyst reports. So thanks for covering the space.
Absolutely. And we thank our audience for joining us for this edition of Eye on Business Video. Be sure to subscribe to catch more episodes down the line. And we'll be looking at trends within the enterprise streaming space on an ongoing basis on our next edition of the Eye on Business Video series. For Wainhouse Research, I'm Steve Vonderhaar. Thanks for your time.